Hello again, everybody. I just wanted to make a video because I really regret not doing a demo of the funding system, the payment system, because I think it's a bit opaque, and we talked about, there's so many aspects to it, and we talked about it, and it's just a bit hard to visualize, I think, but it would be really useful to just see how it works. So I'm just going to take a moment to do a demo of how it works. And you can see here that I'm using Launchlet, which is the app for running JavaScript and CSS on different websites. And but it's the same experience on all of the apps. This is just the easiest one for me to do a demo. So, okay, so let's look at the funding button here. This is like the blank slate of an app. So I haven't signed in. This is what you would see if you just open the app for the first time. You can see there's a blank interface here, and I can make a document, and I can make another document, and you can see here there's the funding button, and then beside it there's a number, which is essentially the document limit. So it starts at 25 for this app. This might change by the time you see this, but you notice that now it's at 22. So if I make another document, it goes to 21. And so the document count continues to decrease, and then once you reach the limit, the app will pop something up asking to contribute something to the project. So let's see how that works in the real scenario, which is my actual account. So here's my actual account, and you can see I'm online because I'm signed into my remote storage account, and the funding button says 0. So I'm actually at the document limit here. So if I try to create another thing, what happens is it says unlock unlimited documents by making a contribution to the project. Would you like to do this now? And you can say okay or not. And if you say okay, it basically does the same thing as if you had pushed the funding button. So let's just push it so you can see what it would normally look like if you just decided to go there. So we did not change the page. It just popped up a modal window on top of the app, and it shows this funding form. The funding form is on a different website, but it's just in a frame on top of here. So it's on my main website, so rosanna.ca/fund. And let's see what we have here. So fund a project, and the first thing is Launchlet. So that's the project. If I did the same thing in Hyperdraft, it would say Hyperdraft. If I did this in Commit, it would show Commit. So the form is pre-filled with certain information based on the app that presented the page. So in this case, Launchlet presented the page, and so it's already been selected, although hypothetically in the future we might select the project. So the next thing is the identity, and this is my remote storage address. The identity, this concept of identity is essentially any string that kind of identifies you in some way. So because I'm dealing a lot with remote storage, I don't know why this thing is flipping around so much. Sorry if that bothers you, or if you have epilepsy or something. Just trying to learn how to use this. So yeah, identity is a string. So anything that, any string, so it could be like a GitHub username, it could be an email address, whatever. But for our purposes here, since I'm dealing with remote storage, we're using the storage address. And this is what we will associate with the transaction, with the payment eventually. I'll talk more about that in a bit. This thing is probably going to go crazy. So then after that, we have the tier. So essentially, all this information has already been filled out. So you don't have to like select your project. You don't have to type anything in. This all came from the app. And so all you have to do is just select your tier based on how much you're able to pay or what perks you're interested in, and then complete the payment. So maybe I'll describe the tiers a little bit here. There's support, there's bundle, there's unlimited, there's solidarity, there's sponsorship. The main ones that I expect people to deal with are these ones here. So this first level is like pay what you want. So this one does not, yeah, you can just sort of name, you can pay whatever you want, and it's only one time, it will not recur. So it's just sort of flexible if you need financial flexibility, and it will unlock the document limit. So regardless of how much you're able to pay, you can just have the full experience more or less. If you choose to pay a yearly subscription of $10 a year, then it sort of works like a bundle, so it will unlock the document limit for Launchlet and also another app. So in this case it's Hyperdraft. So based on the project that you're working with, it will unlock different things. And then there's the unlimited one, which is sort of like the Netflix option. You just get everything, and it's like $10 a month. And this is sort of convenient. You don't have to think about, oh, did I pay for this one, or did I unlock blah blah blah. Like, it just sort of gives you everything. So let's imagine that we're going to go with this $10 a year bundle. So I click the option, and now it selects that, and then it sort of gives you a summary. So the project is Launchlet, the tier is the bundle, the amount is $10, the frequency is every year, and payments are non-refundable, and now you choose your payment processor. So if you want to use credit card or Apple Pay, or I guess Google Pay, you could pick the first option. If you want to use PayPal, you can use the second option. And if you click this, it will show you, if you click the first option, it shows you a button to go check out with Stripe. You can see what that does. Yeah, so this is the Stripe form. I'm running this in Chrome, so there's no option for Apple Pay, but if I did it in Safari, there would be. There'd be a button here, or also on the iPhone, and I imagine on an Android phone you would have an option for Google Pay, so that you don't actually have to fill out your information. Super convenient, and it's got the information that we've established in the form. So contribution for $10 per year, and so that's Stripe, and I'll just quickly show what it does with PayPal. So PayPal has a PayPal button, and this one does not take you to a separate page. It just stays in the same page, and it opens up another modal view. And then it's the same idea. You can sign in with PayPal and then complete the checkout process. So maybe let's talk about what happens in the payment. What data is stored, where is it stored, what happens when you make a payment. So this, when I said that, or I don't know if I said it, but I don't store any data in this thing. Like, I don't have a database of like people that have paid me. I don't have subscriber information. Like, this page is just filling out the metadata for a transaction, and then it's sending you to the processor. So it doesn't collect anything. It doesn't remember anything. Even this view is actually just like a dumb JavaScript app. You just give it information and it shows that. So it doesn't even know what it's doing really. Yeah, it doesn't store any information, but we do need to remember some information. We do need to associate an identity, which is who is this payment for, I guess. We're associating an identity with the payment or the transaction. So the way we do that without a database, or in the sort of zero data sense, we put this data inside the transaction itself using the metadata. So both Stripe and PayPal have some capacity to have metadata on transactions. Stripe is like really extensive, and PayPal is almost non-existent actually, so I wouldn't recommend having too many expectations about that, but it works for my purposes. So what do we actually store over there? The identity. We store a hash of the identity, so in this case the remote storage address is hashed, and then that gets saved into the transaction. And then also the project identifier. So it's just another string. I think for Launchlet it's like RP_001 or something like that. And so that's in the transaction. And there's also this confirmation code, which sometimes we use it, sometimes we don't. It's not really that important. The main thing is just the identity and the project that's associated with the payment. So there is kind of this idea here in this setup that you're sort of like voting on a project, if you will. Like, you're not funding like me, you're funding like the project, right? So there's always this association with a certain project, even though you may get access to like other things. This sort of canonical root thing. I don't know if that's good or not, but it's just the way that it's designed, or for whatever reason I thought it should have been that way. We'll see how it works. Okay, so metadata on the transaction, and then yeah, that's basically it. So let's imagine that we've just gone through the payment flow. We've done the checkout experience. And what happens is when you finish, it brings you back to this form, and it shows you a confirmation box, which looks like this. Here. So, it says confirmation. It shows you the code. So this is the confirmation code that you use to unlock the app to remove the document limit. Maybe I will say that about the confirmation code is actually, it's just generated by the form. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's not some kind of password or anything. You could probably share it publicly, and it doesn't actually mean anything unless you can prove that you own the identity that's associated with that transaction. So it's actually, in this case, you can see it's something that was generated by me, but in other cases it would actually just be, for example, the Stripe receipt number, which has nothing to do with my app. It's just something that they did. Or in the case of PayPal, there's this thing called like a subscriber billing ID. So those things come from PayPal itself. So the idea, the design of this originally was to work sort of the way you would if you were calling into some company and asking about your account, and they would ask you, oh, could you please tell me your receipt number? And so that's kind of how this is designed to work. Like, okay, you made a payment, and then there's a receipt number. And sometimes I generate it, sometimes Stripe will generate it. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that we're able to triangulate the payment or the subscription from your identity and this code, right? So anyway, that was a digression. So what do we have on this page? We have confirmation, and you have the code that we're going to put into the app to remove the document limit. You have your identity, which is associated with this thing, the project, which is associated with the payment. And if you want to receive a copy of that table over there, you can put in your email, and then it'll send you a copy. And then you're supposed to copy this and enter it into the app, or you can just click this Return to Project button, which you may notice in the bottom right down here. It sort of puts the code there so that everything just happens automatically. So that's post-checkout. And so let's go back to the app for a second and see what this, just remind ourselves of what this looks like. Okay, so we're here, there's this document limit, there's no more documents left. If I try to create something, it pops something up. So let's put the code into the app and see what happens. This might happen really quickly, so keep your eye down here on the Fun button as the app comes back into view, and you'll see that the Fun button, the app will recognize that there's a code. The Fun button will sort of turn into this ellipsis thing, which means it's checking the server, doing some work, and then it's just going to disappear. And then there will not be any more document limit. So let's see how it works. So return to project, and the funding button disappeared, and there's a connection error. I have no idea why, of course, because it's a demo. It didn't work. Great. This happened before. Let me try it again. Go back and return to projects. Okay, will this work? Okay, well, anyway, now it worked. So if you didn't see that, so there was a funding button and it said 0, then there was like an ellipsis while it was checking the server to associate the current account with the payment, and then everything checked out, it was confirmed, and so it disappeared. And so now if I try to create a document, I can create one. So let's just do it manually, just for fun, just to see it again, because it's a bit fast. I think, okay, so what I'm going to do is remove, whoops, clear authorization. Okay, so now I've removed that code from the app, so I'm still signed into my account, but the code is no longer there, and therefore the document limit has come back. So if I try to create something, we have the document limit, and now I'm going to put in the confirmation code here manually. So I typed in my code, and I say OK. I notice that the fund button, yeah, okay, fund button checks something and then disappears. And now, again, I can create a new document. Notice how this is just a personal decision that I made about how the system works. Like, I don't like the idea of locking people out of their stuff if they can't authorize for some reason, or if it's expired. Like, so the idea is that, again, the only distinction between someone who is not paid and someone who has paid at the moment is just this document limit. If it's not able to verify or whatever, or if it's expired because the thing lasts for only 1 year technically, like I didn't mention that, but yeah, so everything is assumed to be lasting for a maximum of 1 year. So if it expires or whatever, you don't just like lose your documents or lose access or whatever. The only distinction is that there's a document limit. So you notice now I've created some new documents, and I'm going to clear authorization, and now I have the document limit again. I can still access this thing that I just created. It's not going to go away. Even these other ones, it's all here. So you don't like lock people out of their stuff, right? Which is kind of a problem with certain authorization systems. So yeah, anyway, I think this is pretty cool just because it just happens very quickly and seamlessly. And again, there's no accounts, right? So maybe I'll explain what happened in the server section. So we enter the code, and then it starts this process of us trying to find a transaction that's associated with the identity and the confirmation. So it sends the identity and like a proof of the identity. So like you prove who you are, and then if you are who you say you are, then we just have to find the transaction that has that code or receipt number, right? So so we query Stripe and PayPal to find, well, first we prove the identity. I'm not really going to talk about how that works right now, but yeah, we prove the identity, and then after we prove the identity, we query Stripe, we query PayPal, we try to find a transaction. If we are able to find it, we send this encrypted JSON object, which is called like a grant object, and it sort of has a standardized representation of what you're entitled to with a certain transaction, because PayPal and Stripe obviously have different ways of representing metadata and transaction and dates and all these things. So it's a standardized JSON object, and it has like the start date of the transaction, the subscription, the end date, so when it expires, the project that it's associated with, some other stuff. But anyway, so you get this hash, and it's encrypted, and then it's like decrypted in the app, and then it's stored in local storage. So if you don't have internet access, obviously the app still launches. Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. I didn't put in the code. Anyway. You can still create unlimited documents even if you're offline, so it doesn't like check again. It does check at certain intervals, but I haven't really figured out how that happens. But yeah, so it sort of transparently, it goes to the PayPal API and Stripe API, finds the thing, unlocks the app. Again, I don't have a database of accounts. I didn't ask you to sign up for anything. I don't keep any records. Like, it's all just ephemeral. PayPal and Stripe do store data, but that's not me. That's them. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about with this. I guess you can see how here there's just like so many parts to this, and it's not exactly clear how everything works. So this is why I wanted to do a presentation. And if you have any questions, like, let me know about this. And I hope to write some kind of document that talks about the different aspects of this and the technical aspects of this, and maybe release some of the code, because some of this is open source, not all of it, but I hope to make most of it open source. And yeah, hope it was interesting, and let me know what you think. Thanks for sticking around.